Hello and welcome to the Note to File podcast, a collection of interviews, best practices, and candid commentary for clinical research sites. I'm your host, Brad Hightower, founder of Hightower Clinical, a clinical trial site network providing consulting services and end-to-end personalized research infrastructure to physicians with no upfront costs. You can learn more at hightowerclinical.com. If you're enjoying the Note to File podcast, we encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe to the show so we can continue to provide quality content to a larger audience. All show notes, episode transcripts, and contact information can be found at notetofilepodcast.com. Before introducing this week's guest, I just want to take a moment to make a quick note about this episode. It originally was intended to be our first video interview. However, due to some technical issues, we ended up cutting the video halfway through and just finishing the episode in audio format. So if you notice any sort of awkwardness and lag in the first half of the episode, it was due to technical issues with video. Our guest this week is Adam Brown. Adam obtained his Bachelor of Arts from Wittenberg University in biology. He currently serves as the CEO at ClinArk and is an advisory board member at the Wittenberg Institute for Public Humanities and Sciences. Prior to founding ClinArk, Adam spent his entire career developing clinical trial strategies at some of the world's largest CROs. He has a very clear passion for increasing clinical trial awareness and access. In this episode, we discuss diversity in clinical trials, the importance of building trust, and the role of education and transparency in clinical research. Without further ado, Adam Brown. All right, Adam Brown, thank you so much for coming on. I know, like many of my guests, we've had a lot of back and forth trying to get this thing on the book, so I'm excited to have you on, man.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You're in Cincinnati, is that right?
So I am actually in Trenton, Ohio, but I am a Cincinnati native. I went to Woodward High School in Cincinnati, which is, it's not very diverse. I was, I went to a school where it was predominantly black. So, that's just the type of, the culture of my environment that I come from. But yeah, Cincinnati native. I live in Trenton now, which is a little bit outside of, I'll say Westchester, which is close to Cincinnati. It's probably about 30 or 40 minutes away. But yeah. Gotcha.
How do you feel about LeBron being from Trenton? That's my big question. I'm a huge NBA fan, so.
How do I feel about LeBron?
Yeah, coming back and leaving, and
sometimes you need change, man. Sometimes you need a change of scenery. So I can't be mad at him. Who wouldn't want to go to Cali? I mean, we just. A couple of weeks ago, I was shoveling 12 inches, so I wouldn't mind being in Cali right now. I'll be honest with
you. Right. That's cool. I was just curious. I know that he's got a lot of mixed feelings about him being he brought a title back to Ohio though, so you got to give him that.
Yeah, I think he's going to be able to go forever. I'm convinced, probably until he's about 50 at the rate he's going.
Yeah, he's no kidding. He's unbelievable. There's no question about that. Well, right on. Sorry, get off topic there. That's.
Oh no, you're. I love basketball too. So yeah.
Right on. So, okay, as is customary with all the guests I bring on, I like to just ask a little bit about how you got into clinical research. Kind of tell us your story. It's always interesting to me to hear all the different sort of diverse ways people got into clinical research.
So I started. Okay, so I went to college, right? Like most of us, I went to college, got my degree in bio, and you have all these, you know how it is. You have all these big dreams. When I graduate, I want to make 50K, 60K. I had all these dreams, right? Nope. Ended up sleeping on my mom's couch, and I actually and worked at a doggy daycare. For about 3 weeks, right? And I got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm going to get on Indeed. I'm going to blast my resume. And whoever bites, I'm going to the interview because it can't be any worse than working at this doggy daycare, right? Right. So I put out my resume. And, to make a long story short, INC Research contacted me. And I ended up working there as a site identification specialist. I remember that interview. I interviewed like it was, like I was Jordan with the flu, man. I was like, I gotta get out of this daycare. Out of this doggy daycare. But I went in there and they said, so tell us about yourself. I was like, look, I am sleeping on my mom's couch right now. I have to get out of this job, but I got the job. I remember they called me to tell me I actually accepted the job at my old job. So I went into the lunchroom and I was like, oh, what? I got the job. So I immediately went into my boss's office and said, I am done here. I quit right then and there, waited about a week or two, went to go work at INC Research as a site ID specialist. And that's kind of where I found my passion, just feasibility and all that stuff. And from there, it just kind of, I kind of worked my way up to, I worked at different companies. I worked at the site level as well. I've worked BioClinica, I've worked MedPace, all those companies kind of in the feasibility space. But, it really allowed me to find my passion. I didn't know that it was going to be my passion. It like many other people, it started out as me, I needed a job. You know what I mean? But it literally turned out to be something that I was incredibly passionate about. And then, after working in feasibility, I realized that, I was an analyst, so I would work with the numbers, and I realized that there was a need, like for, there was a need to get more sites involved in research. I was crunching the data, and I'm like, wait, 80% of sites that have done research, right? They're basically going to the same institutions over and over again with the site selection, and it's terrible when you look at the data. It's evident that we have to get more sites involved. I wanted to change that. I wanted to impact that, so I started ClinArk, and we started out just really working the site identification space. That was just something that I love, and now we're doing. Working in community engagement. We just recently developed the cultural competency training. So we're training investigators, study coordinators on how to be culturally competent we pretty much design it specifically for whatever study we're helping with. But we look at that patient population, we interact with the patients, the community, all that stuff, and really develop trainings that speak to the people that they're going to be interacting with. But it's all really centered around increasing diversity. Our entire model is centered around, increasing diversity, getting more people involved in research, just really spreading the opportunity. But it all started from me needing a job, right. Needing a job, not wanting to work at a doggy daycare, and thank God INC Research called me.
Sure. Well, and again, I think your story is like super relatable. A lot of us fall in backwards in a way, and then realize later like how much we love this industry and how much of an impact we can have on it. And, I love that, your sort of description of what you're doing in ClinArk. It sounds like you're able to sort of work from the inside out, yes, as opposed to, I don't know, I see a lot of CROs and it seems to be more of an outside in, it's like you said, you're looking at numbers. You don't know, you don't know what you're looking at, but you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with numbers in this industry, so I love that approach that you're able to take there.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So are you able to sort of, I guess, tell me a little bit about how ClinArk is able to sort of, again, work more from the inside out. I love that you say you've got a cultural competency. Is that a course, or is it a study specific or more general that something sites can participate in?
So literally we have a team of experts that we work with, and it's study specific. It's not even, it could be for studies. It could be whatever, if the organization wants to train their people, we will design it based on their needs. But, it all starts with, say, you're working in NASH, right? We would then literally talk to people that have this issue, right? Or this illness, understand some of their pain points, understand some of their needs, understand their culture, because there is a culture amongst people that that are patients. There is a culture. So understand what comes with helping them, right? And then we turn that into something actionable, into a training, into strategies, and really deliver that information to sponsors or CROs or whoever needs it.
So you're able to sort of help bake in the more personal touch, and it's something I've been saying lately is I feel like clinical research is very much like customer service. It's a very personal, we're serving these patients. I mean, we're serving these communities, we're serving these patients. It should be more personal in that way. So you're able to help sort of bake that into the study itself. I think that's awesome.
Right, right. We've literally helped sponsors develop study names, right? So like we'll literally interact with the community and say, what do you all think about this study name? So that the community, the patients feel like they've helped along the way, right? So it's not a surprise once you then go to these people with a study because they've heard of it, they help shape it, So versus, it's like, we developed this trial in a silo, right? And then here we come with it, and then nobody knows where it came from, or it's just, sign up. We don't know what this is, So it's more so getting everyone involved,
Right.
and valuing the perspectives of everyone, the scientists, the community, the
Right.
patient, everyone, and really packaging that up and delivering it to the sponsors, to whoever needs it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think that's ridiculously underrated. I know I work at a site level, and I see every day how much education goes in, patient education goes into these trials. Like, we're not just asking someone to be in a trial, we're having to educate them about the whole clinical trial process on top of whatever their specific, disease state is, or whatever this new medication is, or the specific protocol requirement. So all of this is just awesome because it all stacks, it all stacks on top of each other. You include them from the beginning. It makes your study better. It better educates the patients. It also helps you develop material that's more relatable to the people who have that particular issue. So again, this is one of the first like truly practical solutions I've really heard as far as getting buy-in on the front end from that patient population. We hear a lot of, the buzzwords, but I mean, this is like legit practical. This isn't theory. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So I know like another piece of this that we don't do that I think is going to be important, but we have to build the trust first, is going to be like digital medicine, right? Wearables, all that stuff. So like we must build the trust first with the communities, so that when we then start introducing that stuff, it's not like, no way. You know what I mean? Because I think some people could be scared.
Right.
I mean, my grandmother, my great grandmother, I should say, she just now started using her debit card.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a really good point. I mean, and that's something I don't know that I see addressed a lot, because again, the future decentralized trials, wearables. I mean, that's great, but is that going to create a further divide, or just a different type of divide within clinical research? Because we work with a lot of people in rural areas that have flip phones, so even giving them an e-diary is a challenge, getting that data collected. And if we didn't have the personal relationships that we develop with these patients, then it would be damn near impossible to really get any usable data. So I'm curious to see how that, I mean, on the one hand streamlines things, but also in some ways may create a different type of divide that we're not anticipating.
Right. And I think it's going to take a combination. We don't have all the answers. We're doing something that is practical, that makes people feel involved, that, allows everyone to be involved, no matter your education level, whatever. Even when we engage the communities, we hire people from the communities to help us, so, and we train them, GCP training, cultural competency training. They get the same training that we're giving to sponsors. And, so we're actively teaching people about clinical research at the same time. But, it's still, it's a big problem. So it's going to take everyone and all of our ideas, all of our solutions to really, attack the issue. But I will say this: we can't look at it like it's a one size fits all, or like it's this is a long-term relationship building thing. This isn't like, in 3 months will I, will I have 60 patients, so it really is, you're building that relationship so that you can get to the point where we're no longer having the discussion of people being scared of clinical trials. People are just like signing up if they want to be in it, so that's what we're working towards, versus, that's like you said, it's not practical. You really have to build that relationship first, because people are scared. When you hear it, people are scared. Before I got into this industry, I thought medicine was made in the sky.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I always wondered where it came from. Of course I knew, the FDA was involved, but it's just when you come from like the communities I come from, like I never heard of clinical trials until I was maybe 20 something. So when I got the job, I had to learn about it. But we have to change that. We have to be at high schools introducing this to kids, talking about it to people, because like you said, we do work in our silos. ClinArk cannot solve it we can't do it all, but it really does take a team. It takes the entire industry wanting to change, because whether we realize it or not, we've created a culture of our own. And we don't let everybody in. So
Right.
so we have to get past that and let people come in and share their perspectives, even if they're not scientists. Let them share their perspectives, because I guarantee you it'll be some value in that.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. There is a little bit of, I think, sometimes some ivory tower, to things, especially in the academic side, which I've worked in academia, and the more we can get out to the communities, the better that will get. And then to speak to your other point, I mean, clinical trials have been in the news a lot lately, especially with COVID situation that we're in, and for better or worse. I mean, in some ways, that's getting the message out a little bit more about clinical trials. Obviously, I don't love to see the sort of like politicalization of medicine that seems to have taken place to some degree, but it's at least getting some awareness out there, which in some ways can't hurt if we can sort of use that as a springboard to really continue to educate.
Right, absolutely. I 100% agree with that, and I think it really takes, like for me, I'll be very transparent. Before I got to this industry, I was terrified. You know what I mean? Like when I heard about Tuskegee, I was one of them.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But look what coming into the industry and look what education can do. Like I learned about it. Like I understood. Like I went to college. I learned about the industry. They let me in. I got to see it. So really letting people see it and understanding that it's not gonna. It may take longer than 6 months. It may take longer than 12 months. But you have to let people in. You have to let people see the screws and everything that makes it work. Because I mean, what do we have to hide? That's just what it's going to take to build trust.
Right. Yeah. No, again, it's like you said, I think it's a long-term relationship building process, and that's what it's going to take, is building the relationship. It's not going to be a quick fix, but I mean, I think that's what you're doing right now. That's what you're out there in the communities doing, is helping pull the veil back, let people see how things work. And I think that, if everybody's doing what they need to be doing, like you're right, there's nothing to hide. There shouldn't be, people don't need to be scared. I don't blame anyone for being scared. I mean, we still see, people saying, I don't want to be a guinea pig. There's obviously a crazy history of terrible things that have happened. So I can't blame anyone for being cynical or skeptical or apprehensive. But the more, groups like ClinArk are out there educating the communities, then puts us just a little bit closer, a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I will say this, just from our experience with just engaging people from all walks of life. You get some of those comments. No, absolutely not. There are people that are just like not having it, and they're very transparent about that. And you just have to let some of those. You can't convince everyone. You just can't. And it really does take. It is a slow process, because a lot of people, are skeptical. So, yeah.
Well, and again, you're not going to convince everybody, but you don't necessarily have to, and everyone's entitled to their opinion in one way or another. But again, I think that we still have a big bridge to gap or a big gap to bridge rather, as far as that's concerned. So there's a lot of work left to be done.
And also from my experience of doing feasibility, I think that we need to spend more time during that process. Like really not, because I don't know if you're familiar with how like feasibilities are done for clinical trials, but like it's like you got 2 weeks, you got to find data, you got to pull all these pieces together, you got to figure out how to, and here, put this forward, hopefully we'll win the study. It needs to be more thoughtful, I think, and needs to be more time invested in understanding the communities that are going to be involved in that research, and also, really understanding the doctors that are going to be participating on the study. Not just gathering what they say, but really understanding the doctors, like their personalities, their everything. Because that is going to play a part. That's why the cultural competency is important too. I can't, and going back to the feasibility part, I said a statistic earlier where it was like 80% of sites have conducted one trial or less or something like that. That's proof that first of all, we're going to the same place. And when we're introduced with a new doctor, we then say, well, they don't have experience, right? Well, how are we going to get them experience? You know what I mean? If we have people that are eager to participate, how are we going to do that? So we have to answer those. We have to answer that question too. We have to get more doctors involved. I know the universities are important. They have to be included, but we also have to make sure that these communities are their doctors are involved in the trials as well, because not everybody can, travel, 30 minutes or an hour to get to a clinical trial. And it's just not feasible for most people. I remember when I was a kid, my mom and I, it was just us. We didn't have a car, and we had to walk with our groceries. So I can only imagine what it's like to have to go to a clinical, you don't have a car, and go to a clinical trial that's at this university hospital, and it's 45 minutes away. Like, do you know how far of a walk 45 minutes is when you have to walk it? That not a car ride. That could, be an hour and a half or something. You never know. But yeah, it's just, we have to really start thinking about all the factors at play for the community. And like I said, think about, the doctors that are really they're going to be interacting with these patients, not just selecting them because,
right.
They said they could recruit 1,000 patients a month or whatever it is, like really understanding their personalities and if it's going to mesh well with the community that they're serving. I think that's going to be important moving forward as well.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I mean, yeah, I'm at a site level, so I've been through hundreds of feasibility processes from the site side, and it is very much more of almost just a business proposition at that point. You're sort of, what are your numbers? Let's get the numbers. Let's get the study. We can do it. Well, we're not really being super thoughtful, and as a result, you end up getting studies that don't do anything because you're not, you don't have that relationship with the community, or you don't have that particular patient population or a relationship with them.
Right.
So there's a lot of problems, and it's a crazy number of sites don't even ever enroll a single patient, or they don't enroll nearly the number they wanted to get, and so you're wasting time and money somewhere that you really don't need to be anyway. So it all ties together. It's not just good for people; it'd be better for business too.
Right. And I think you also, and this is absolutely no shot at doctors. Like, they do incredible work. It's just, hey, I understand, if I'm put in a situation where I have to say this number, or this is how I feed my, feed my team, so it's not the fault of the doctors. It's just, we all have to be more aware of what we're putting out. You know what I mean?
Well, and look, there's a lot of great doctors, but it doesn't mean that they're a good researcher, or they're not a good relationship builder. You can be a great surgeon, you can be a great interventionalist, you can be a great doctor, but that doesn't mean you really get the nuance involved in clinical trials, So that's certainly seen that be the case.
And that could be, hey, we go to the site, we survey the sites, during the feasibility, actually survey the sites, the communities. Maybe that's, and then maybe we find out that site, in order to smooth things out, maybe they need some type of host or something in the lounge or something, that's talking to people, that's asking people how they're doing, we just have to make make clinical research a little more inviting. And you made some great points.
Yeah. So I guess, moving down from there, what are maybe some best practices or something you would share with sort of other people in the industry? You've had a, fairly long, successful career, and you started out on the CRO side. Looks like you've had more experience on the CRO side, it looks like. But what would you sort of share with other people in the industry looking to get better at what they do?
It takes time, but never stop learning, right? Just never stop learning. You major in biology, major in biology, you're a doctor, but maybe take some time and read a book in sociology. Really try to understand that sometimes we don't know everything, and take that extra time to, maybe an hour a day, learn something new, because that's what I've always tried to do, and it's worked wonders. That's how I created my company. I wouldn't be able to do half of the stuff that I do now if I didn't, take a little extra time to learn something, because, there's always room to improve. But, I think just never stop learning and try to not be scared to accept other people. You know what I mean? Like, really embrace other cultures and try to understand that culture versus being like, just really try to understand where they're coming from. And I think those if you do those two things kind of as a foundation, you'll be good to go. And at least that'll get us on the right course to, make some change in the industry moving forward.
Yeah, and I think those two ideas fit together. Like, we tend to get sort of a very narrow focus depending on what's right in front of us or what we've studied or what we are comfortable with. And when you begin to take a more broad approach, you can get a better look, you get a better perspective, you get a bigger, idea of what's really going on. And in that way, you can start to put pieces together that you couldn't have before,
right? Because
you didn't have that knowledge. You can't,
right?
You can't have too much knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
Those two things fit together and sort of dovetail like perfectly, because it's, get out of your head a little bit and get out there and see what's going on. It's, again, it'll put you in situations and give you opportunities you never even knew about.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Once I started being, patient and started, trying to understand people, where they were coming from, because I've been on the receiving end of those, cultural misunderstandings, and I've also been, I've been the one that initiated it sometimes, but it was all, like I said, it's all around misunderstanding. It's all just. It's natural for us, when you introduce a stranger to a group of natives, there's naturally going to be friction. So we just have to be understanding of that in any situation. If you introduce somebody who's not a biologist, they study their, whatever, and it's 12 biologists over here, and they start talking about what they think about science, the biologist is probably going to look at them like, excuse me, and so it's really... so it's really it's all about really being patient and taking the time to understand people's perspective and where they're coming from, and I think that's worked for us. That's worked for us when we're literally talking to the community. Just I try not to be the one that says the most. I just like literally listen to the people, and understand what they're feeling. How can I help? This isn't even about clinical trials. How can I help you? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really that approach that I think we have to start taking.
I love it. Again, it seems small, but it makes all the difference in the world. Just like you said, when something's new, it can be scary. Well, make it so that it's not new anymore.
Right.
Get out there, get familiar, get comfortable. And it's only going to serve everyone. It's going to make everyone better and more comfortable and happier. So. No, I love that. Obviously, I think that's I think things are slowly moving that way. We've got you're out there doing the work, so I love that.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what are some resources or maybe some tips and tricks, something that you use to help you throughout the day. I love to sort of hear about whether it's a book or a piece of software or something that is sort of super useful for you that helps you in what you do?
Me being, I'm a, in terms of personality wise, I'm more of the visionary type of guy. So like, I like to read a lot, and that helps me, even keep my stress levels down. I keep all of my books on my little Amazon, little Kindle thing, and I'm a big reader, and I'm kind of a nerd. I read I read a lot of textbooks, which is kind of weird. I'm not a novel guy. I like to read just give me the actual stuff. Like I don't want to read. I like to read. I like to read mainly textbooks and then kind of sprinkle in some novels. But for me, reading is kind of it's everything for me. I'm really big on reading books, and it helps me decompress whenever things are getting crazy. I'll stop for and just read, or if I need to come up with ideas, reading a lot allows you to connect the dots, across different disciplines and all that stuff. So it's reading. It's in the books, guys.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, again, that's something, fairly simple for people to do. I use Audible just because I drive a lot. I've got a long commute, so I'm always listening to a book.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, right. I started a little book club within my company just for people to share,
Nice.
What they're reading with each other. And, it's not about clinical research specifically, it's about, maybe it's just self-development. Maybe it's about habit formation. Maybe it's about mindfulness, whatever it is, because again, sometimes the stuff outside of what we do is still important. We're all human beings, and I think all that stuff together makes you a more well-rounded person so that you can do your job. You can do your job better. That's what we're all after is, how to best help people. All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you so much for coming on. You have anything you want to add before we go? Where can people find you online?
Oh, so you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Everything else is my personal account. Don't follow me on those. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are where I'm most active. Yeah, and before we go, I would just like to say, embrace everyone, and never stop learning, and we're all in this together, and let's try to work towards a common goal, and it's okay to be competitive, but at some point we all have to hug each other and figure this out. So let's work towards that.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. Adam, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Note to File podcast. All show notes, episode transcripts, and contact information can be found at notetofilepodcast.com. And again, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks again for listening.